4 foods to avoid if you suffer from recurring yeast infections. Did you realize that food is often to blame for many of the infections that we are experiencing? This is especially the case whenever we are having a yeast infection, but it is not necessarily the yeast that we are eating which is causing the problem. Yeast infections are caused by a certain type of Candida that is present in the environment all around us. It is also in our body, even when we are not experiencing an infection, and it serves a useful purpose. When our body is in balance, that yeast is kept in check so we do not typically experience any problems. If you have a problem with yeast infections, especially if they are recurring or even chronic, there are some foods that you should avoid at all costs. These foods don't necessarily cause a yeast infection to occur, but they can keep it alive once it exists. Here are 4 different types of foods that should be avoided by those who have problems with yeast infections. Sugar. One of the main things that should be avoided when you're having a problem with yeast infections is processed sugar. Yeast eats sugar, so if you're feeding the yeast infection, you're going to have a difficult time getting rid of it. Even many of the foods that you should eat for yeast infections, such as yogurt, typically have a lot of sugar added. Make sure that you read the labels before you put anything in your mouth. Processed foods. Anything that is processed is not going to necessarily be good for your body. If you really want to get rid of a yeast infection that you are experiencing, you need to get back to the basics of eating, including plenty of raw fruits and vegetables. Pasta. Even though many of us enjoy eating pasta regularly, you should avoid eating it whenever you are experiencing a yeast infection. Most of the pasta that we eat is made from refined flour and water. This refined flour can cause problems in our body, including feeding the yeast infection that we are experiencing. Mushrooms. Even though not all of us eat mushrooms, it is certainly high up on the list of things that we should not be eating if we have a yeast infection. Make sure you avoid them and you will have better success with getting rid of the infection.